Hi, welcome to Hope in the Light of Suicide. I'm Tammy White. I'm the founder and CEO of the Bobby White Foundation.
Hi, good morning. I'm Bonnie Snyder.
Welcome. We had a little bit of a summer break, which was nice. It is super hot here, just like it is everywhere else, but ready to get back and rolling again a little bit here. First off, of course, we want to thank John from Area 52 Media Group and Cage, our tech guy, who does an awesome job, so that we're able to continue to bring this show to you. And also our sponsor, DeLynn Gaston, with the mortgage firm. If you ever need anything, any questions that has anything to do with mortgages, pre-qualifying, first-time home buyers, refinancing, anything mortgage, she's your gal. So we want to thank her for her sponsorship and helping support us also. And we also have coming up, I want to get this done because usually sometimes we end up talking too much and then I forget Art for Hope coming up. And so we want to get that in kind of at the beginning. So, and that's something that I kind of been working on a little bit over our little break. We've been getting a lot of art donations for the event. So Art for Hope is September 7th out at the Hilton Garden Inn from 6 to 9 p.m. September is National Suicide Prevention Month, and that week is also International Suicide Prevention Week, or one or the other. But anyways, both of those are happening. That's why we have this event every year during that time to support the cause. So there are sponsorship opportunities available, and being that it's art, so we come up with artful names. So our top presenting sponsorship is the Hope sponsorship that goes along with the name of our show, of course. And we got the Dolly sponsorship, Da Vinci, Picasso, and this year we did something a little different. We're doing just like a small in-kind sponsorship that's only $25, so that if these other sponsor levels, primarily usually businesses sponsor, not always, but individuals can help sponsor the event. The Hilton Garden Inn out there at the Suncoast is always great to us. The only thing is that with everything else, costs have gone up, and like our food costs have tripled. So we really need to get the sponsorships up, and also gift basket donations, because we have gift basket raffles, and that's always a really huge hit, and we end up with some really awesome gift baskets. I mean, we usually end up with at least 30 or more baskets, and usually like towards the we get close to the event and we think we're not going to have enough baskets, and then all of a sudden whoosh, we get inundated and we got to add tables and and such. And we're going to have some local artists there also, along with a lot of the other art that was donated. Rick Redmond, who is he's been our event photographer. He's going to have some of his works on display. He recently took a trip to Alaska, and man, he came back with some really awesome photos. So he's just one example of what we got going on. So do you have anything coming up during the summer, any events?
I mean, we have our recovery walk that is coming up. Our flyer just came out. It's like my brain is blanking on the day. And I left my phone over there, so my brain wasn't thinking about recovery. But we have our recovery walk coming up. We're planning our ASAP is planning their conference. This Tuesday is the day that our youth speak to we have a panel discussion with our youth, to talk about things that are affecting them, and mental health is always one of their top priorities, to discuss. Same likewise, when you're a nonprofit that I don't want to say it has to, but, depends on, donations and support from the community. I think it's important, the community understands that the things that we do, we're doing it for a cause, and, that whether that cause is, mental health, suicide awareness, addiction prevention, the Boy Scouts, just kind of throw, something random off in there. Giving us, that support is amazing, and it goes a long way to help keep the message going.
Oh, most definitely. And kind of try and remember that, the small nonprofits in your community, whether it be here, ours, or anywhere else, the money that you donate to them, these are the people that are on the grounds in your community, that are on the ground in your community doing the work. So, whether you, support us, support ASAP, support Ian's Way, we've got so many great organizations that are on the ground in our community helping everybody, all across the board. We've had Canine Partners for Patriots on here before. They're an awesome organization. So yeah, just remember and try and support the small organizations in your community that are on the ground, doing the hard work. And they're usually the people that have experienced it, and it's a great way to just help out your community.
There's a phrase that says, like, don't shoot the messenger, kind of thing. And in this particular case, we want you to shoot the messenger, shoot us with, some donations, shoot us with support, so yeah, please, target right here.
Yeah.
Shoot the messenger, please.
Yeah, really.
Because you do make an excellent point. Usually with things like, this and, again, if I, mention ASAP, I think you hit a nail right on the head that, we are the boots that are on the ground, actually, doing the work. So it's not like, going into, say, a retail store where you're going in and you're purchasing something and the profits are going up to, the business owners. Not that I have a thing against, retailers and, businesses like that, earning money. However, I look at, here you have a CEO of a large, corporation, and again, I'm, using retail as an example, who, is making millions, and the people with the boots on the ground aren't making, that same thing. So we can look at it from that, concept of, we need, organizations such as ours need that, support for, the people who are basically on the ground with us.
Yeah, exactly. And a really good prime example of that is a lot of people do Facebook fundraisers. Facebook fundraisers, and you don't have to do it just particularly on your birthday, but that's probably like the most common. Check out and find out if your favorite organization, local, small organization, is on there where you can do a Facebook fundraiser. The Bobby White Foundation is on there. You can do, a fundraiser. My birthday's coming up next month. I'm going to do a birthday fundraiser for the foundation. Something kind of funny, but it wasn't funny. A guy that worked with Bobby at one point, a few years ago, and he was also at the house for Bobby's celebration of life. He did a Facebook fundraiser, but he didn't do it for the foundation. He did it for the national organization. And I was like, what are you doing? What about us? We're the ones that are here. You worked with Bobby, but some people I guess it's just human nature and just the way that we are with society, you think about the first thing that comes to your head, and quite often it is the more national organizations because they have the money to promote themselves, and so it's just always in your head.
And I think sometimes too, what happens in those regards is, I'm giving to this national organization, and sometimes the, understandably mistaken belief is the national organizations are supporting the, many organizations, the smaller organizations underneath them. And, and the people don't, know that that's not, that's not
typically
the
not
case.
the case, no.
That's not to say that larger organizations, are reluctant to, support, and or promote the smaller, organizations that are doing the same thing. However, that donation does not always, always trickle down. Or, sometimes, we were going to, do something, and the organization that we were working with, was like, if you're going to charge money, which is something we were going to, we would have to, sponsorship, gain money for. The money actually had to go through this organization in order to come back to us. And it was like, the issue wasn't them giving us back the money. The trick of that became, well, it had to go to a board. So we looked at the board and said, hey, well, they just brought in, I'm just going to use a number of $5,000. The board could decide, okay, so out of that $5,000, we're going to give you $2,000. And, we're the ones that raised the $5,000 that was raised for, this particular event. And so sometimes you have hurdles like that to get around when you're dealing with, larger organizations. As we're talking, it's like, so let's not do that. We want to support you, but let's not do the money side of it because in the particular case of this particular organization, they were like, we want to make sure that if you raise, again, I'm just going to use $5,000, that $5,000 comes to you, there's not that danger that part of what you raise is going to stay with our organization.
Right.
And again, I don't think people, think about that, or it might be, I want to do the larger organization because they're reaching more people. There's a lot of different reasons why.
There's a lot to it. Well, even when we had our first Art for Hope 6 years ago, we had applied for our 501c3, but we hadn't received it yet, and we were incorporated and everything else, and so the money that we raised, because we didn't have all this other paperwork, had to go somewhere. So we agreed we would give what we made to the national organization. And they wanted us to sign a thing that from there on out, we would give them the money from our events. And I was like, oh, no, we can't do that. The day after, the morning after our fundraiser, the paper was in the mail. I received it, but we had already promised that so that first year, and it was like $5,000, $4,000 or $5,000, and we had to give that to the national organization. But now we have all our paperwork, we have all the state stuff, we have our 501c3, we're registered with the Department of Agriculture, what sounds really kind of weird, but in order to collect funds, in Florida, you have to be registered with the Department of Agriculture. So we have all that, so we're good. And what we do for the most part stays here. The only little bit, which is a real small amount, is we have sent some purple folders across the country, and where we would help out other individuals and send them a packet of the purple folder, and usually I'll do some research and find some local entities, resources for those people and stick them in the purple folders, which those are being reprinted. Hopefully next week we'll have our 3rd edition for the purple folders coming out. So that's all good. So during our little break, I was doing some research and looking at stuff. I came across something that I wasn't really aware of. I was aware of part of it, but I didn't know that it really went deeper. And you and I talked about this a little bit, that and people hear about winter depression, what do they call it?
Seasonal affective disorder.
Yeah, seasonal affective disorder, SAD. And you usually hear about it in the wintertime. And, because it's, days are shorter, skies are gloomy, it's cold, sometimes you can't go outside or do stuff, but has been a thing for many, many years that you hear about it wintertime. Well, it's not just winter. We have it in the summertime. And for different reasons, but and we have spoke about this just a little bit, that the suicide rates tend to increase in the spring. Though they tend to increase in the spring and early summertime. And there's a summer SAD. So
I think it's not so much that seasonal affective disorder is it belongs to, or that any one particular season can claim it. It's more of when do people tend to focus on it more? When do people tend to process, when are the times that people are most likely to be depressed? And where I feel that it comes up more often in the wintertime is especially around the October, I'm going to say more specifically November, December timeframe, where we're celebrating Thanksgiving and then Christmas. And when you're thinking about Thanksgiving, the concept of there's a missing chair at the table. Somebody's not going to be sitting at the dinner table with us this year. Somebody's not going to get their piece of turkey or ham or whatever it is you're eating on Thanksgiving. Where hey, what are you thankful for? Oh, I'm thankful for my family. And it's like, I'm thankful for my family. However, I'm missing this. I'm missing this person. I'm thankful that this person isn't suffering anymore. However, I wish that they were still here. And then when you're thinking of Christmas and you're thinking about all of the Christmas memories that you've had with this person, or what, if I use Pat for example, when Christmas rolls around, I'm like, when I'm shopping for everybody else, his favorite thing, were socks. All these character socks, and I always look and I'm like, I would have gotten these socks. Patrick would be getting these socks if he were here. Patrick would be getting this deck of cards. This is other thing, cards. This deck of cards. Or these dominoes that were here. And so, again, you're thinking of the person that's gone, and the fact that you can't, they're not here to celebrate with you. When you do the comparison to what's going on in the summer, it's a whole different host of reasonings why summertime SAD pops up.
Oh yeah, most definitely. But some of it still revolves, that's not really the right term, around what is happening as far as, like in the wintertime, shorter days. So now they're saying that the seasonal changes that can cause depression in the summertime are the days are longer, the days are hotter, and which, there's a multitude of reasons that you may have trouble sleeping or have anxiety, such as, your schedule's quite often way different in the summertime than it is in the wintertime for those reasons. We got longer days. And this year, it's extremely hot over a huge portion of the United States. I mean, who wants to go outside out there? Over in, my cousin lives in just outside of Phoenix, and that Arizona, Nevada area, they've had, I think now it's probably over 20 days of triple-digit heat.
Mm-hmm.
And my cousin, she's like, she in Arizona, and they do this even when it's not like as scorching as it is, just because it's so hot. Their grocery stores open like at 6 o'clock in the morning, so that you could get in when it's a teeny bit cooler, get your stuff done, and get out. But
I think it's notable too that summertime SAD, as research, pointed out here, is also more prevalent in countries that are closer to the equator, than they are that. Like, they deal with these, summertime SAD than, those that are further away. And I'm thinking about this, well, of course, it's a heck of a lot hotter near the, and I mean, I shouldn't say of course, and I'm certain that, part of what plays into that is, closer to the equator, it's going to be a little hotter. The the effects are going to hit you, much greater than, those of us that are not as close to the equator, that, we're feeling the effects, but we're not, but you talked a little bit about, schedules being disruptive. I know for me, I look at, I work with a lot of children, and children having this thing where we're not in school anymore, so they're not, they don't have their friends to socialize with, or, they've gone from, if I just use a typical classroom or some of the typical classrooms that I've gone in, you've left a classroom of, 10, 20, 30, in some cases 40 kids, that you're connected with throughout the entire school year, to all of a sudden school is over, and, if you live over here in this community, but the person that you used to sit next to in school is over in this community, and transportation is not possible all the time because parents work, and so parents have to coordinate. A lot of what I hear from my grandchildren, for example, hey, what's going on? I'm bored.
yeah,
What's going on? There's nothing to do. And I'm thinking, you're bored and there's nothing to do. And then, of course, it's like you have to think of creative ways to, keep yourself, keep them to keep
engaged.
themselves occupied. And, I noticed for me, if there's a way to track, like, the internet activity, I know the internet activity in my house during the summer goes way up because, the children will be over. As I'm walking through, every one of them are, on an electronic device or playing on a game system. But then after a while, it's like, I don't want to be on this game system. Can I go outside for a bit? And I was like, oh yeah, I would think about me when I was growing up, go outside and play. But then you're like, they want to go outside, and then they come back in 5 minutes later. It's like, it's too hot outside.
Right.
So it's too hot for them to play outside. It's, you can only play so many video games inside, and so, dealing with, that particular disruption, I think especially with the little ones, that are just starting school, it's like, oh, I've made all these new friends, and, I'm in school, I'm a big kid now, to, where'd all my friends go?
Yeah, all of a sudden it's, what's happening? It's so quiet. Oh man, yeah, and and the parents, I mean, that's a lot for the parents to deal with too, with the changes of not having the kids in school and having to try and figure out how to keep them busy, or, if they are younger, longer daycare hours or more daycare hours, and that could can lead to another stressor of financial, financial burdens. On top of thinking, okay, at summertime, we're supposed to go on vacation, and so financially, how are we supposed to juggle? Okay, the kids got to be taken care of longer, and we really need to go on vacation, and how are we going to juggle all this? And and so there's can be huge financial worries during that time, because it's not as structured as you have during the school year.
Well, and I also think of families that have older children, and again, if I'm thinking about my own, for example, where during the school year, to your point, you have kids are in school all day, so they're in, by default, built-in babysitter, they're in school. By the time they're getting out of school, 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and if I'm going to use my daughter as an example, her schedule, she's usually home by, she goes in early in the morning, she's home, by 2, 3 o'clock, so she's getting home at the same time, her kids are. But then when you look at, okay, so it's summertime, what am I going to do with the kids? So then you have older siblings, oftentimes playing the role of babysitter to younger siblings, which then is, gee, I'd kind of like to spend my summer hanging out with my friends or doing other things, but now I've taken on this responsibility of helping with siblings. And I'm not saying, that older siblings don't mind. I mean, I did it as,
I had to do it too, because our parents worked.
I watched younger siblings, and then, I started babysitting nieces and nephews. And a part of it was like, they're more to life than just babysitting. But then at the same time, personalities are, I don't mind babysitting. But you have, that where people tend to feel, or there's a tendency that, they may feel restricted, or these aren't my kids, they're yours. Why do I have to have the responsibility of babysitting kids that aren't mine, and I'm not agreeing, I didn't sign up for this. I'm being told to do this, not it's, something that I am being told to do, not something that I want to do. So you add that to it, and then, again, you talked about vacation. Do I have to go on vacation, or would I like to go on vacation? And again, how do I juggle vacation with the added cost of daycare? But not only the added cost of daycare, the availability of daycare, because often, I don't know how many times I've seen people say, I want to put my kids in daycare. One of my coworkers, just, recently had, their first child. The baby's like 3 months old now. And they had to go on a waiting list, 6 months before the baby was born, just to ensure that the baby is born, they had a spot in daycare. And then it's like, well, this is not really the daycare I wanted him in. I really wanted him in this daycare, but you got to take, what you got. And, oh, by the way, my daycare rates just went up. And it's like, and did I know this? No. So yeah, you're piling all of this stuff on that, trust me, I understand it. It lends to depression.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that it's a lot to juggle, and you got the summertime heat on that, and that generally makes people irritable. I remember Bobby, when he would, working in the summertime, and it was fun. I was talking to a guy recently. I can't remember what job he did, but it was something that was partially outside, and these guys or gals that work outside in this heat, Bobby would come home in the summertime and be as cranky as could be, and basically it was all just feed him and go to bed, because the heat was just awful. The heat has gotten worse since he has passed away. Our summers have, in the last 7 years, have just continually gotten hotter and hotter and hotter. And, here in Florida, this week and last week, our feel-like temperatures have been in the hundreds. I've lived in Florida for over 40 years and have not ever seen anything like this. So it's it can be a real struggle.
As I'm looking at this, where it says, there are some people that relish the heat, they like going to the beach and lying out and whatnot. I'm one of those individuals that If you ask me, heat or cold, summer or winter, consider myself to be pretty heat tolerant. I don't mind warm weather. There's, sometimes a debate going on in my house in terms of, why is your house a sauna? And I'm like, it's not a sauna, but then I have to think about it. Yeah, it is kind of warm in here. It's my brain, but anyway, but even like for me, it is like, this is miserable, and I think, with the heat, you're miserable because it's hot. You're constantly doing the sweat
Well, you
wipe.
can't walk from, a door to your car without getting all sweaty, and if you're dressed nice and you're trying to go to work or trying to go to a meeting, it doesn't matter what you do, you're going to end up hot and sweaty.
Or you get in your car and you're like, like that.
Can't get the AC to go down.
To me, the other thing is like, you're walking from your house to your car, which is, in some cases like, 20 paces, if that. And, you get in the car, it's like, I really just took a shower. I feel like I need to go back inside and, and take another shower. But we talked, so it's like, yeah, but, we're talking about the beach, okay? For me, another thing comes into mind, and, it's pointed out here, issues of body image. It's like during, when I'm not on the beach, I'm usually in, long pants, a t-shirt, kind of, got, little arms, I think, sometimes. But, it's like, long pants and, shirt, nobody's, I'm going to the beach. I gotta put on a swimsuit? Like, are you kidding me? And, when I think back or make this comparison of, what did I look like 3 years ago versus now? 3 years ago, I would throw on a swimsuit, fast forward to now, it's like, okay, put on some pounds. Do I really want to be in this swimsuit? Or I find myself saying, don't even think about it. It's going to take a minute before I wear you again out in public. Or the going joke amongst, some of, my friends who, not that we have an issue, per se. It's not that I have an issue with body image. However, the joke is there's just some things that just are not fit for public display, I mean, conversely, I see people in,
I don't know, there's a lot of people out there that they're probably not fit for public display,
Well,
but they don't mind.
Well, and I think, for me as, someone, who works in the field of mental health, I embrace and celebrate people who are very comfortable in their skin, no matter how much skin they have. And I was like, I couldn't do that. I was like, that's, and again, it does feed into this stigma and this belief of, if you're model thin and you don't have an ounce of body fat, that's the body that should be in a bikini. If you're, overweight or whatnot, you should be wearing a tent or a muumuu to the beach. But yeah, people look at, my body image. What am I going to look like in a swimsuit?
Have you seen that? There's a commercial. I haven't seen it too much lately. It was really at the beginning, and I can't remember what it was for, but it was a guy. He had the dad bod, but he was wearing like a almost red Speedo. Yeah, with his daughter. I love that commercial. And he was just strutting his stuff, and so it was.
Yes, it's a medication. It's for a medication.
I couldn't remember what it was for, but I just love that commercial.
Yeah, it was like
and he's just like, yeah, I got it going.
And the daughter's like, really, Dad?
Yeah.
You're right. He had the ultimate dad bod, and then these little teeny red Speedos. I'm like, well, and interestingly, as a side, I was in Miami 2 weeks ago, and there was a guy, same thing, kind of dad bodish and whatnot. He's walking down the street of Miami in these little tiny yellow Speedos. And, I was like, well, you go right ahead. And then, of course, that one side of my brain is like, I'm embracing and celebrating the fact that He's just that comfortable.
Yeah.
But then I'm watching him as he's going to his hotel room. He's getting ready to go to his hotel. He's getting ready to go to the hotel, and he stops at the door and he puts on a pair of shorts. And I was like, so you can walk up and down the public street in this little yellow Speedo, but the minute you're getting ready to walk into the hotel, you got to put these shorts on before you go into the hotel. What's up with that? I guess, it was an image out here and an image in the, I don't know. I know we just went down a rabbit hole with that one. But yeah, body image. And, unfortunately, when you think of summer and the heat, we're going from long sleeves to shorter sleeves, or, the spaghetti strap, for women, or, long pants to shorts. And it's like, you know what? Somebody's having a 4th of July barbecue, and what are you thinking? That's usually shorts and T-shirts and whatnot. You know what? I'm going to avoid that social situation because I don't want this exposed. I'm not saying me personally, but anyway, I don't want this exposed because I don't like what I look like.
Yeah, and all that does, it tends to isolate you even more,
Yes.
which it's a snowball effect. Your self-image, start isolating, depression, and it can snowball, and it can snowball pretty quickly. So we have some tips for coping with summer depression. I like the first one. Just get help.
Job security. Job security.
Well, it seems like it's something simple, but seriously, even without summer sad, with just living everyday life, sometimes that's a really hard thing for people to adjust to mentally, that, hey, maybe I do need some help, and it doesn't have to be something that's going to be long term, or, there's more and more options out there to get help, even if it is just talking to a friend that you trust.
I think, unfortunately, what happens when it comes to, seeking, help, or, from, a therapist, or whether it's a psychologist, a social worker, or a mental health provider, is the stigma that's associated with I'm seeing a therapist. And I think of, I remember, we talked about, I was with a therapist, to deal with, the grief of losing, Pat and Hayden. And as I'm sitting there and I'm listening to this, woman talk, she's talking to me and everything. And in my head, I'm like, I know these things, I know these things, I know these things. And after a while, to me, when I'm talking, when people are struggling, with getting help, I have no problem looking at them saying, I'm a mental health professional who is seeing a mental health professional. And then when I'm in the room with, the person that I'm talking to, and it's like, we hate to say it's crazy, but it's one of those things like, it's crazy and I'm in the right spot. And I said, what's fascinating about this is, I'm sitting, how is it easy for me to, take in or to listen to somebody else and what they're dealing with? We don't always do it, conversely. And, again, there is so much stigma associated with mental health, that people think you're broken when, you are seeking help for something, regardless of what it is, especially if it's depression. That's one of those really, tend to be those hot button.
Well, and still even people don't like to, not only the person that is going through it, others around them sometimes, they don't want to deal with it either. I remember when I went through my first bout of depression several years ago, it was fairly intense for about 5 months. A few people knew. One person that I had known for a really long time. It was after the fact. He told me, he was like, yeah, I could tell something, something wasn't right. And just remember thinking, well, why didn't you ever even say anything to me? You're supposed to be my friend, and nothing. And for him, it was right there. He could see it, but he didn't even reach out. But one thing is, just don't take depression lightly. It can be manageable, but if it's ignored, then you can get into a really deep depression, and things can get pretty bad. Fortunately for me, I didn't get into it super deep before I got to the point where I was realizing what was happening to me. And I was fortunate for myself in that sake that I was finally able to recognize what was going on and what I needed to do to change things. And one super big thing for me was how I was eating was completely, it was making the depression worse. And so I had to get back to eating the way that we used to eat, which is fairly healthy. I mean, we weren't total fanatics about it, but we ate really fairly well. We didn't eat processed foods as much as possible. Very rarely ate processed foods and didn't really go out a lot. But and we started doing that because of Bobby's MS, which made a big difference in his health for many years. But it can spiral out pretty quickly.
I think the other thing, with depression, or even when you're looking at seeking help, we'll stick with depression for a moment. It's normal to feel, to have your down days and whatnot. Where you start recognizing that, my down days are lasting longer than usual, and it starts affecting other aspects of your life. You're losing interest in things. You're not taking care of yourself. You're not taking care of your responsibilities. You're noticing that, things are falling through the cracks. Those, are, for me, what I say are the red flags to, this has gone from just, I'm bummed because my favorite team just lost, just lost the Super Bowl, versus, I'm in something long term. Yeah. I like what it says here in terms of, planning ahead. I love strategizing. What is my week going to look like? What's my day going to look like? Sometimes what are my months going to look like? When my children were growing up and I was thinking about, okay, summertime, is coming, school is going to be out. I was a single parent, so it's like, what am I going to do with my kids as far as, daycare? And so, it was always a, plan, with, their dad. All right, school is out. The kids are going to come to you for the, summers. He had his mom and, family there. It was military. I was, away from my family. So it was always, or it was with the kids. Where do you want to, what do you want to do summer break? And when they were younger, it was, they were going to go to their dad's, or, they were going to go, to Jersey to my family. When I go, spend time with, or sometimes they would, do them both. And then as they got older, and responsible enough to where they didn't need a babysitter anymore, kids said, what do you guys want to do? And it's like, well, we don't want to go to dad's, we don't want to go to Jersey, we're going to stay here. All right. And then, we had a plan. This is what the days are going to look like. This is my schedule. These are your responsibilities and expectations, and that works out really well.
Well, yeah, if you can make a plan, what is our summer going to look like? This is what we have. So then you feel like you have a little bit more control as to what is going on around you, and you have and it'll relieve some of that stress because you already have plans in place, and those plans that you can follow. So you have more control of what's going on. And
I think, yeah, good.
They always say, no matter what, sleep is super important.
I don't sleep.
I know. I don't know how you can get by on as little sleep as you do. I don't sleep as much as I used to since Bobby has passed away. When I was a teenager, well, all teenagers do, because we just went through this when my neighbor's grandsons came down, and one of them, the mom and dad and the other brother was out doing stuff, and I'm like, "Where's Liam?" "Oh, he's still in bed. It's 10, 11 o'clock, you know." And on the weekends, I used to do that too. I wouldn't get up till noon, but sleep is important.
It is. It's funny.
Maybe not that much sleep, but sleep is important.
And it's funny that you talk about teenagers. I walk in my house sometimes, and in my house there's like a sea of teenagers. You know, like a few sleeping on my living, you know, they're watching TV and they've passed out on the living room floor. And, you know, I walked in my house one day and it was like 2 o'clock in the afternoon and everybody's passed out. I was like, and I jokingly looked, I was like, "You little bums, you guys gonna get up?"
Teenagers can sleep anywhere.
Really, and you know, but you're right. I mean, you know, getting, you know, an adequate amount of sleep. I mean, it's, you know, I'm supposed to say 8 to 10 hours of sleep is, you know, what you should be getting. You know, but I also say, you know, there are some people that operate on, I'm preaching to myself, you know, that operate on less sleep. I'm not saying that less sleep is healthy, you know, necessarily healthy. But I do recognize when, you know, I'm tired and I want to go to bed and I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to sleep just 4 hours. You know, there are times that I do get more than 4 hours of sleep, but that's my norm.
Yeah, no, I cannot.
But it is important, you know, to sleep.
Well, and one of the things that makes it hard during the summertime is because the nights are shorter.
Yeah.
And so people tend to stay up later, and then in the mornings, you know, for part of the year like now, if your bedroom is on the east side of the house and the sun gets up at, you know, 6:30 in the morning, and if you live up north, it's earlier. When I would go visit my parents, it'd start getting daylight at 4:30 in the morning.
Well, I think the other thing too, what I found, you know, people who, you know, they deal with the, you know, longer days and it's still light outside. Like Greg has a face mask, you know, that he wears, you know, when he either wants to take a nap in the middle of the afternoon, or you know, just going to sleep in general. That's light outside, or, you know, darkening,
Blackout curtains.
blackening the room. You know, to
that's what I had in our bedroom, blackout curtains for Bobby, particularly on the weekends when his MS would kick in. Keep up with your exercise. I've been horrible about that.
You know.
And Kim from 9 Round has been on me.
I know. I have a gym membership that I've been paying for you know, several years, and you know, I'm like, I need to write my gym as a dependent on my taxes because I'm paying this membership. It's almost like I'm paying alimony to the gym. You know, yeah, the marriage is over, but you know, here you're still getting paid. You know, but you know, if we combine, you know, the next two, you know, keeping up with your exercises, but not overdoing dieting and fitness at the same time, because I think some of us, you know, will have that tendency to, I'm in the gym nonstop, you know, every day. You know, I know some people who live in the gym. You know, and exercise and dieting, like everything is, you know, moderation. Let's do it smart.
Oh yeah,
You know.
yeah, and especially with the heat and the weather that, you know, that we have. Protect yourself, you know, just like, you know, you were talking about like 4th of July parties. If you don't feel like going, you are overdoing it. Don't feel like you have to go. It's not a have to kind of thing. But, you know, but don't isolate yourself either.
You know, for me, this protect yourself to me has it's kind of it has a dual meaning. You know, that you know, being able to, you know, set obligations aside. You know, I don't want to do. You know, I'm not feeling going to this party. I'm not feeling doing this. You know, the other thing is, you know, we talk about self-help. You know, self-help. You know, all the time in terms of knowing what your limits are. Like, I know for me, sometimes it is very hard for me to say no to things. And so at the end of the day, I find myself with, you know, 1,000 obligations, and I'm going in, you know, a billion different directions. Like I heard somebody tell me recently, I just worked I just worked the last 14 days straight. And I'm looking at them, and I was like, really? And then I had to, it's like, wow, you didn't get a day off, anywhere? No. And I was like, wow, that's long. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, I just did the same thing. And so, again,
Right.
recognizing how to put limits on yourself. And with that, asking yourself, why? I hate that. I have a love-hate relationship with the word why.
The why, yeah.
But, really processing the reasons why the reasons you are depressed or you're feeling, depressed. Is it because, my favorite show just went off the air, my team just lost, or is it something deeper? And then once you're, then processing where the depression is coming from, taking the appropriate course of action for it.
Yeah, you can talk to your doctor, there's other things. Take a vacation, but plan it carefully, and don't beat yourself up about it all. And I tend to do that sometimes.
Oh yeah. I mean, we are our worst critic. I remember talking to my younger sister, and she hit this nail on the head one time, where she's one of those workout fanatics and whatnot, and she's no body fat whatsoever. And I remember looking at her one day and telling her, I thought she was beautiful. It's like, my sister, I could hate you for how beautiful you are. And she'd made that comment about no one knows our flaws better than we do. And she's like, where you see no flaws, I see them all. And I was like, that expression made sense to me.
Yeah.
Because it's like, we do tend to beat ourselves up and not see the beauty in ourselves that others see.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Yeah.
Well, coming out next month is, if you want, more information about this, there's a new book coming out called Defeating SAD, A Guide to Health and Happiness Through All Seasons. And I talked to one of the managers at Books A Million here in Port Richey, and they have special ordered 5 books to have on hand. And I think it's coming out the middle of August sometime, and we'll have more information as we get closer to that date. Thinking around the 15th, 16th, 17th, something like that. So they'll be available there. We'll probably have some at the foundation also. So I was happy that they were going to get on board, because they weren't going to bring them in. And I'm like, can you please bring them in? And so they will have them available. And if we need to get more, we can get more.
It's nice that they do that.
Yeah, I was very happy that they would accommodate that.
Oh yeah.
Very much. Very much. So I think this is our sad.
It's our sad.
So, you had something to announce?
Yeah, a different kind of sad. This has been a bit of an incredible journey. It has been enlightening. But I am signing off of the show for a while. I'm signing off from the show. So I'm stepping away. It's just, sometimes things happen, and we go off in different directions. And so, it is bittersweet, but life takes us in different journeys, and I'm taking a different journey.
Well, we started this journey together about 1.5 years ago, something that I thought I would never do. Trying to defeat a very tough subject that both of us have experienced. And not only us, but our crew and our producer. It's something that has affected all of us. And still trying to navigate through it and trying to help you guys.
It is. I mean, for me, it's something that, for me, I deal with, on a daily basis in my, my professional life, as someone who, is a mental health professional. So it is an important topic. It is something that, it needs to have a light continue to shine on it. I was sitting in a meeting this morning, a Friday morning meeting, and then I, come over here to the studio to do this. But as I was sitting in the Friday morning meeting, and I said, it's important that we all get involved, because I will bet everything that I own and all of my grandchildren that there's not a person in this room that hasn't been affected by mental health or substance misuse. And I was like, and I wouldn't do that because I'm not giving up my babies. However, I know no one can say no. So it is a topic that, needs to have, attention, shown on it. I'm blessed and grateful to have had this partnership. At the same time, sometimes we just have to step away and do other things.
Well, and you may be back as a guest with guests, or just as a guest, or who knows
We'll
where
see.
it's going to. We don't know where it's going to take us. Really,
We'll see.
right?
Yeah, we'll see.
But we're gonna continue with the conversations, and we're gonna keep it out there one way or the other. So I want to thank you for going through this with me, and we supported each other through all this. So we want to get those 800 numbers up there, the suicide lifelines. Please make sure you keep these in your pocket, or in your pocket, in your wallet. Now it's in your phone. And our inspirational, I don't even know if it's inspirational this week, our quote for today is somewhere. There we go. As long as we breathe, you'll be remembered.
As long as I breathe.
Oh, yeah, I breathe.
As long as
it's all right.
that's been,
Well,
that's
yeah.
kind of fitting for today. It's my last show.
I know. As long as you breathe, as long as I breathe, you'll be remembered. So, as we always do when we sign off, just please remember,
There
there's
is always
always hope. And thank you for joining us. Take care.